Welcome to the Bladtcast, a special Earth Day Bladtcast, a welcome to Earth Day Bladtcast. I don't even know if I can make that joke anymore, but we'll talk about that and more. I am Christian Blatt, down in the center square, Jim J. Bullock, but also known as Jeff DeRay. Hello, Jeff. How are you, sir?
I hate that Spider-Man. Mass menace.
wrong J, but close enough. It would be more like, you know what? I can't do the Jim J. Bullock voice. It's 2022. And of course, Will Sterling.
What about Detective Bullock from Batman?
Well, as played by Donald Logue on Gotham. One of the aspects of that show I did not have a problem with was him as Detective Bullock. Anyway, for our visual listeners, you see that I've blessed you with a graphic that I created that I was actually really happy with. There are these websites you can go to and you can create a graphic and they want you to donate or something. And I was like, no, fuck that. This is just for a joke. So I created a graphic for Bladtcast Plus, and you can see our slogan is what's another $9 a month. And I think that'll be the thumbnail for this episode.
I like it.
Because clearly this is the time America and the world are saying, you know what we need? More streaming, please. We don't spend enough on streaming. We need another streaming service. So obviously, I think that the one that makes the most sense would be Bladtcast Plus.
Of course.
And God bless Dominicus Saxon already. He immediately said, just take my money. And he had a gif of, I forget now who it was. Somebody was throwing money. Our friend Mark Hunt, he commented that he wanted to know if there was a lesser tier that had ads. And I explained that I think that people who would get ads interrupting the Bladtcast would actually have a far superior experience. They'd be getting a break from us, and they'd be getting, some highly well-produced advertisements. So that's actually a higher tier. The advertising supported tier of Bladtcast Plus is $23 a month. But I think, look, it's just as much as 6 cups of coffee. It's really not that expensive if you think about it. But when you hear about it, you hear that, this isn't like big major news, but it's interesting news from the media. You hear that Netflix shares are down, and somebody told me that Netflix is up to $17 a month, and I'm like, you know what? I think that was a joke. No, I think it was a joke, but I auto renew, so I actually don't know. It could be $17.
$20 a month for the 4K subscription.
Okay, but I don't have that. It's $20 a month.
Yep.
I mean, pay for all that shit they made.
I don't. Yeah, but I don't think that they offer $20 a month worth of content.
I mean, they do technically. If you think about that's one movie ticket, the amount of shit you can watch on Netflix, it's like always a steal.
Yeah,
this is surely based on my opinion of things on Netflix at this point, but I feel like their share price dropped so low because of the password sharing thing as their reason for why they've lost subscribers. It's like, no, your content has been shit. Like you do the spaghetti on the wall for content. Most of it does not stick. You don't renew the ones that do. And then you're like, goddamn password sharing. Like, it just makes them look like an old man on the lawn with the broom, like not understanding the problem. And it just makes them look like the next Blockbuster. Like, if they can't figure their shit out, they're going to go, bye-bye.
Don't spend $100 million on a fucking horrible adaptation of Cowboy Bebop and then cancel it immediately after. You guys I could have told you. You could have saved a bunch of money. I would have watched a template and been like, this is not it. You guys... Maybe I like what you're doing here, but I don't know if this is. I feel like the guy could save Netflix a lot of money. The guy
in the room.
Yeah.
Think about the movies that they have spent over $100 million on, like the Red Notice one, whatever, with like The Rock and those guys. It was a terrible movie. That should not have been more than a $1 passion project movie. Like, that was a shit movie. How are you spending $100 million and not getting results? Like, clearly somewhere in there, you're actually just bribing or something. Like, the money's not getting spent on the production, and that's clearly the problem.
Well, going over from the Netflix website, there is a basic $9.99 where you can watch it on one screen at the same time, and you can have downloads on one tablet. I think a single person that maybe doesn't have any friends that want to share with them, that $9.99 seems like it works. I feel like I want the $15.49 tier, but I bet I have the $19.99. So the $15.49 is that you can watch 2 screens at the same time. That definitely happens. Number of phones or tablets you can have downloads on. Who do you guys download from Netflix a lot? I did once before the flight that lasted 45 minutes before I had to drive home. I tried to download some stuff from Netflix, but generally I don't.
Like, because if you go to Mexico, they'll have different stuff on there. So sometimes if there's something I wanted to watch, or if I think I might get stuck at an airport, I'll download some stuff.
But also, when you were in Mexico, you downloaded 40 seasons of Sabido Gigante. I would understand if you made that decision.
Sí, está fuego.
Estoy muy fuego. And then, the premium is what Jeff was talking about, $20. I mean, look, when you compare what other streaming sites cost, I mean, for God's sakes, HBO Max just gave you a movie that was in the theater only 45 days ago. It gave you the Batman movie. If you were able to wait for a month and a half, you got it. That's what Will's saying. It's like to go see the Batman in the movie theater was $20. So HBO Max isn't $20 a month. And I don't think Netflix delivers the kind of content, and it's not like the password sharing is new.
Yeah.
Like to what Jeff was saying. I think that it's like they're just using it as an excuse now. And I mean, I'm surprised. I've used the MLB.TV with multiple friends. I don't know. I mean, but like having the Sirius XM app, if I'm signed in on it and my wife tries to use it on the Alexa upstairs, it immediately tells me someone else is trying to listen. Do you want to keep listening? And I'm like, yes, I do. They can find something else to listen to. This is my account that I spent $500 on in 2005 and have never given them another penny since.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm squeezing every drop out of that. But in any case, so like it clearly you can do it. And I mean, it's like if a Netflix account isn't logged in on 2 devices using the same Wi-Fi, then you probably shouldn't let them. I mean, if it's really that much of a problem, make it harder for people to share. We share a number of streaming apps with my sister-in-law and my wife's parents. Like we pay for some, they pay for others. We pay for most of them, but her sister pays for Hulu. So there's that. So that I could see Will Sterling as the sheriff of Nottingham.
Oh, yeah.
And Corby,
award-winning role, by the
our
way.
pal Corby Pyatt. God bless you, Corby. I only download episodes of the Bladtcast. I don't watch them, but I download them. And honestly, that is really what you should be doing. And Corby, did you pop in late? Do you need to have me give you the hard sell and welcome you to Bladtcast Plus, where we ask what's another $9 a month? By the way, I don't think I've explained the Bladtcast Plus doesn't really offer any additional content. It's actually just the same show, but you're going to pay for it.
And no password sharing.
Or you're
banned.
Password sharing. I will come to your house and take back the Bladtcast T-shirt. Which Dominicus Saxon is still trying to get the T-shirt from the guy who said he would give it back.
Oh, yeah.
So clearly that guy is not giving it back,
I think that guy just wanted us to focus it on ribs.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably true.
I've no
talking too much.
Dominicus Saxon, they let my account get hacked 3 times in the past year, once more, and I'm out. And Corby says, I've been paying Jason Blair $10 a month since last year for the Bladtcast. That sounds like the kind of deal that he would write. Jason Blair is much too busy for us right now. The lawyering has really taken over his life. And I don't know. Oh, and Facebook user who did not verify who they are. Look at that. It's mystery Facebook user. How about we focus it on ribs?
Yeah.
I keep trying to name my podcast Dry Rub, and it keeps getting flagged for some reason.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of what I've watched on Netflix. I mean, I didn't finish Squid Game, not because I didn't like it, but because people stopped talking about it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I won't even start. I haven't even started 10,000 shows because as soon as they come, they go, "Ooh, something." So there's something there.
There is something.
Come, they go, Christian. That's not the first.
But
time.
you know what I do think people should binge? History Rated R, which is a
Hey!
great podcast that can be
Yes.
found wherever podcasts are found, right? Well,
Yeah, anywhere.
Even on the street.
Anywhere. Even
yeah,
on the
yeah,
street.
that's right.
I'm selling mix CDs, mixtapes
You
of
can
my
look
podcast.
look for Will walking around
Yeah.
the streets.
I'll be like, hey,
of
it's free, but then I'll hound you aggressively for
Yeah.
$5 to $15.
I exclusively press all his podcasts on vinyl so that I can listen to him as the artist intended.
Yeah, exactly.
I was
Really try to
talking
get that sound
to
quality.
my friend Tom Kelly, who's been a guest on this show before. He's in town, and I believe he'll be on the Bladtcast next week. Because if you come and visit me, you immediately it's like jury duty. You're going to have to take a turn at some point on being on the show. But he was the first person I knew that ever had a podcast. He is the person that explained what the word podcast was, where I understood what it was. But the way that I used to have to listen to it, I would download it to my laptop and then burn it on a CD and listen to it in the car when I was driving around. And I'm like, I think I still have some of those CDs. The first show that he did was called This Show Again. And it's like, yeah, but you were like one of the first podcasts. We're talking like 2004, and I know that's not like nobody had podcasts at that point, but it's
Adam Carolla and 4 other people. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's oh no, Farad Muhammad has been delegated to Facebook user.
Oh no.
It's friend of multiple shows, Farad Muhammad. You have to there's something you have to click on because I've had that happen when I've posted comments in the Geekscape live chat and it just comes up as Facebook user. There's some way you have to identify yourself. You have to authorize StreamYard to use it.
Next time we do an episode, we should put all of our handles on the screen here as just Facebook user.
I mean,
I don't know what happened. It's weird.
Facebook. Book face.
Book face.
What is it? You face.
But yeah, I mean, I put stuff on, like my kids watching Captain Underpants right now, which is actually a kid's show. It's not what it sounds like.
Sponsored by Dry Rub.
We know what it is.
It's like, hey, didn't somebody have an uncle that used to call himself Captain Underpants? I'm not talking about anything like that. All right.
Oh,
it's a series of kids books. And my kid loves reading and I'm excited about that. This guy, Dave Pilkey, who did Captain Underpants, he has a series of books called Dog Man. And the big one around my son's school, my kid's like the pusher. He's gotten everybody hooked on this thing called Cat Kid Comic Club. And they're basically like comic books. They're just, they're sort of like this. He's not reading the history of Kiss without makeup, but it's like, the books are like this, but they're like, paneled drawing like comic books. And, he read like on Easter, he read like a 200-page book in, I don't know, like an hour or two. I don't even know how long it actually took him. But so he's 6 and I'm like, great. Cause I think I started reading actual comics when I was 7. But
that always made me feel good as a kid. If I was like, I just read fucking 200 pages in a day. I was like, I'm amazing.
Yeah.
It's good for their morale.
Yeah. And by the way, Dominicus Saxon with an important point. History Rated R is one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to. And by one of, you mean it's at the very least second to the Bladtcast. If you want to put Motivation Report ahead of it, that's fine.
Sure. Yeah.
And the Jeff cast, if you remember, Jeff, we haven't talked about it in a while, but you've been working for about 10 years on the one episode that you're going to post. And I just was wondering how the progress is on that.
It's I do it like most governmental business. I'm saving it for after it's due.
You should do it like the Wu-Tang album that the Pharma Bro bought, and then I think it got
buy my
confiscated
thing. Who here has so few scruples that they would pay me money to hear things I have to say?
I would.
Yeah, I mean, Will and I would honestly. Will and I'll go in on it together. We'll share it with each other. But like the Wu-Tang album, you can buy that Wu-Tang album and then you can disseminate it however you want. Corby wishes that he was known as Facebook user. Then he could say what he really wants to say, which I think that there's no reason to be rude to us. And Corby doesn't like Dogman, but his son does. Yeah, I mean, they're for kids. I think it's all right. He also has Calvin and Hobbes, which in retrospect has introduced several topics before I was really ready. I mean, I loved Calvin and Hobbes, but I don't know. The Garfield collections were the big books for me and my wife. Very similar. Yeah. I remember his like 10th book, and we once went to a yard sale, and they had like the first 3 Garfield books, and I think I bought each of them for like $0.25.
Nice.
And I was like so excited that I was like hundreds of pages of Garfield, and I was just like, who knew that one day this cat would be Spider-Man?
Wow. My teacher in
Because-
2nd grade let me do a book report on a Calvin and Hobbes collection. It was
Really?
called Revenge of the Babysitter. I don't know where that stands now because they've been collected 10 million times at this
Yeah.
point. But I was like, can I do a book report on this? And she was like, sure. So budding comic book enthusiast.
When I was in middle school, we used to have at the end of the day what they called it sounds very communist now when you think about it, was SSR. It sounds like it was like, Hitler Youth Training, but it was sustained silent reading.
That's right. I forgot about sustained silent reading.
And sustained silent reading, we weren't allowed to read comic books because the idea was that you would be reading comic books anyway. And I was just like, look, I'm just going to read the same dumb, like, I read I never liked fantasy, but there was like a parody fantasy series called Myth Adventures, and all the titles had were puns with the word like Myth Adventures and things like that. And I'm like I think I probably got a lot more out of comic books than I did in reading these Myth Adventures books and the novelizations of the TV series V. I'm like, look, I'm gonna read all this stuff, but it's garbage, but
that's how you got into the lizard people.
Yeah. Let me tell you about the lizard people. They're the bosses.
Who's now filed for bankruptcy. Those lizard people got him. They got him.
Lizard people got him. And Farad Muhammad, the reason why it's good that Farad Muhammad switched to YouTube is look at that picture. I mean, I wish I photographed as well as Farad Muhammad. Oh, this is funny. I didn't realize that the show was captioned. I forgot that when I do it live. So Corby Pyatt says, when you said Hitler, the captions said Hillary. Coincidence. I said this on Twitter earlier today. If I learned anything from the film Pulp Fiction, well, one, it's the kind of storage that Quentin Tarantino does not do. But then the number 2 thing that I learned is, I don't even have an opinion. I don't have an opinion on anything. I just made a very mild observation on Twitter this morning, and somebody called me a straw man for making an easy argument.
A straw man.
I had to look that up.
Wait, you are a straw man, or you're making a straw man argument? Because
I think he was saying that.
I think he's saying, sir, that you have no brain. If you're the scarecrow.
If I only had a brain. Yeah, I know. And
straw man.
Yeah. Hey, Will, where's the History Rated R episode about Wizard of Oz? Do I need to drive down there and make you and Craig do that?
I asked Craig, I was like, do you know the story? He's like, oh yeah. But then we've gotten sidetracked by a bunch of random things.
You were covering an era of American history where that was relevant recently. That's like after Teddy Roosevelt.
The thing about that is that we had pre-recorded every single episode about presidents since before we launched. And so it kind of just has become a little bit of a mess, but we could always detour and do it.
Look, I'll drive down to your neck of the woods as long as Craig makes me some risotto. I hear about it every week, and I'm just like, enough already. I'll drink whatever cocktail you guys want to make.
This is easily doable.
All right, perfect. And but Will, you're gonna be heading east very soon.
Yes, I will be. Me and Jeff will be almost neighbors for like almost 2 months.
Yeah,
and Ken, we all got together a couple weeks ago.
I wanted to ask you guys about that. I have a picture of it somewhere that I'll look for that I'll share. But so the time that you guys got together previously, it was just you and Jeff and Will. I don't know. You had some bad ribs, I guess. The dry rub wasn't sitting well
before that because it really just ruined the day. So we got a much better do-over. We got to meet up in Boston after Casey and I got some tattoos. We got some ink. And then we met in Boston for drinks. I got her signature.
Oh.
I don't know if you can see it in this shitty
light. I
light.
can see it.
Yeah. And she got my name and then a date, which is like our little anniversary date. Anyway. How
about on the other arm, Paul McGann's signature?
That's going to go there for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then your signature, like just below it.
I got a good signature. My signature would look good as a tattoo.
She was like, oh, I should get your signature. And I was like, do not do that. Don't do it. My signature is fucking horrible and my handwriting is dog shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, then we had some drinks. Where were we at? The Bell in Hand, I think, first, and then we moved over to Quincy Market and we hung out for a little while, and then
nice.
We made plans. I'm gonna go to Fenway hopefully when I'm out there. I would love to love to see a Red Sox game. and see
Yeah,
the
it's
play.
fun to. Yeah, I mean, it's it's a very different experience. I was texting Will about this. He had mentioned that you guys might go to Fenway, and it's like you can compare it to Wrigley Field. There are different experiences, but they're the only ones that are that old and at least feel similar in that way. But yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's like, you kind of want to go when the Red Sox aren't doing as well, because then the tickets are cheaper. If you're not a fan of the team, that's really the time to go. Hopefully they're not playing the Yankees when you're looking to go. If they're playing the Reds,
then you're not going to get tickets no matter what.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but you can get tickets. They're what you pay for them.
Yeah,
in the aftermarket. If it's like if it's an interleague series against the Rockies, you're going to spend less money. And yeah. So, in any case, that'll be fun. Yeah, I will actually be not that far. I'll be heading east, but not north. So I will be spending some time in New York for a couple weeks. Like, that's the trip that I tried to take in January. So
right.
You can go back a number of Bladtcasts if you want to hear about how that didn't happen. I can't find the picture you sent me of you guys all together, Will. But
really?
Yeah, well,
messages.
It's in a text message, but I think that because my phone is so full that I have to like re-download all of the images in my text folder, and it's very complicated. Yeah, there you go. Hold it up. Here, wait. I know how to do this. Hold on. Will's got it there. And Will, just resend it to me, and then that way I'll find it easier. Hey, Will, how does it feel to be in the big screen, by the way? Look at how handsome Will is.
I was born for the big screen. I have an important announcement to make.
Okay.
I need to get more coffee. I'm going to be gone for 15 seconds.
Okay. Well, then you don't get the big screen anymore. So, I mean, I think it's only fair, right? There you go.
Hey.
Yeah. And Jeff, we're doing this at a time where it's not going to get dark in that room as the podcast goes along.
I know, right? Look at that sunshine.
It looks like a wicked good day there in Massachusetts.
Wicked nice out. It's wicked blue skies.
It's a good time to head down to Bach Toyota.
Head on down to Bach Toyota on Route 1 on the Auto Mile, right near Newberry Comics, where you can buy comics and also wreck it.
We should take a trip to Bach Toyota while I'm there. I just want to see it for myself.
I think
if you guys go to Bach Toyota, I might have to drive up from New York. there's part of me that would want to drive up to go to Fenway with you guys, but man, to go to Bach Toyota is actually worth it.
Could imagine
the 8-hour round trip from Brooklyn.
I just think it would be hilarious. I wonder, I'm sure it's just us, but I hope that there's just they often have tourists. I've heard of this place.
Yeah, probably.
Toyota. Please, will you do the commercial for me, sir?
When we first talked about it, we talked about local car dealerships, and it's like if you drive by Toyota of Orange in California.
Oh,
because, it's I could have got a lemon, but you won't get a lemon at Toyota of Orange. And everybody has the local commercials and all of that.
Mazda Nissan in San Diego. That's my jam.
Oh yeah, that's right. I looked that up. Yeah.
Have we talked about that before?
We did. We talked about all of these on an episode, and I found commercials that had that jingle. I found Bach Toyota commercial I put at the end of an episode. I don't know how long ago it was.
What about Bernie and Phil's? It's a furniture store. We were passing it the other day, Natasha and I sang her the jingle. She's like, I don't know that one. So Bernie and Phil's, quality, comfort, and price. That's nice.
But that's because she didn't grow up out there. And I think that we're in the age of local commercials. You're not going to see as much as you used to. And it's if you watch live sporting of any kind, that's where you tend to see a lot of that stuff. And a lot of the sports that I watch baseball on the MLB app, so I don't get the commercials. There are specific commercials for the app, but I don't see if I'm watching a Mets game, I don't see a car dealership in Queens that people that watching in the rest of the area would see. So I miss out on all the good stuff. But that's why we're going to have ad supported Bladtcast Plus. And what I love now is that it's just Jeff and the Bladtcast Plus logo, because you don't need to see Will and I. You just get the Bladtcast Plus logo. Look at that. It just puts it right over us. We're still there.
Plebeians, it's I at the Bladtcast Plus.
Oh boy. So you guys got some drinks and Will, you're gonna be back there for like May and June, right?
Pretty much. We're driving out. We're starting our little road trip on the 2nd of May, and we're going to take like, 6 days, I think, to get out there. See some people along the way, and then get out there like the 7th or the 8th, and
Mhm.
then I'll be there. I'll probably have to fly back like 2 or so times for movie production stuff as we
Oh, okay.
try to keep moving on this project.
This is the project that I read that would I guess I can say it would be set in the Palm Springs area. It's that
Yes, it
movie?
is.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Heather also read too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Heather gave you good feedback, and I gave you feedback that you did not need to take into
No,
under
you both
advisement.
gave us good feedback. And it has been through many subsequent drafts since, which has been very helpful. So, yeah, have some interesting people attached that nobody signed any contracts yet. So we'll see. But if we have to location scout and do some physical stuff, I don't want to like not be there. So
Yeah.
we'll see. But then Casey's lease in Cambridge is up at the end of June. So then we're going to drive out to Scottsdale, where she's doing a summer work program, and then drop her off there, and I'll come on back to the LBC.
I
in
love
July.
Scottsdale, Arizona. And
Do you really?
only
Is it-
part of the reason is a wonderful old timey ice cream shoppy
Oh,
called
shoppy.
the Sugar Bowl. And if people are familiar with the comic books, the comic strip, The Family Circus. So I guess that the artist of that like lived there, and I guess he used to like work on it there. So there's a lot of his artwork hanging up there.
Got
And
it.
it's no Calvin and Hobbes Family Circus. I'm not pretending
Sure.
it is, but it's
Yeah.
kind of a cool. And then you'll see little drawings of the comic strip where he drew the Sugar Bowl in there. I think it's called the Sugar Bowl. But Scottsdale is great. I mean, I always feel like I could live in somewhere like Arizona or Phoenix. If that's in Arizona, but like Vegas, I mean, Vegas, Arizona, I could live places like that, but I couldn't live in like northern Maine. Like I can
Really?
deal with the hot, but the cold, I'm not interested. I've had enough cold in my life
That's
that
fair.
I don't think I can go back. I can embrace the hot,
Mm.
but I'm talking like, when you go outside and it's like 5 degrees and we're not even talking wind chill, I'm like, I don't think I can do that anymore. I just don't have it in me. But 115, yeah, sure,
Sure.
why not?
Just lose a couple pounds. Like, that's great.
I mean,
That's
that
only positive.
honestly, I think that is probably what it would take. Maybe I should also spend a summer somewhere like that. Maybe I'll summer in Vegas and
There you go.
just never go inside. Just see what I
Just get
can
a great
sweat away.
tan. Yeah.
Let's see. We're talking about local commercials fraud. Anyone see the Eagleman commercials from Chicago? What I love is that Chicago, and no, I don't know those, but what I love about Chicago is that they refer to it as Chicagoland. Like that's like the sort of like, like
Hollywood
here
land.
they'll be like, your SoCal Honda retailers. The idea that Chicagoland, because it's Chicago and the suburbs, and I don't know where it goes out to. But the idea that it's Chicagoland makes it sound like more fun. And Dominicus Saxon rarely watches commercials, even from his own area. Yeah, I mean, it's. I think not watching live television has really had a lot to do with that. If you watch network television live, you'll see a lot of stuff. But if you watch cable television, like my cable television, I watch on YouTube TV, so I don't get like the local ads inserted the way it used to when I used to pay for cable. I did want to backtrack to this comment, though, from Dominicus Saxon. After hearing about the martinis Will and Craig have, me and Mrs. Saxon are considering becoming day drinkers, which, I mean, I don't know. Craig has pretty strict rules so that martini time is after 6, right?
Yeah, 6:30. If he had his choice.
I'm sorry.
But sometimes he's forced to drink earlier than he wants to, and it really puts a thorn in his side. He gets upset.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Having to, yeah. And Dominicus Saxon says anything over 72 degrees, and I'm needing my central air. Before we had kids, I used to keep the thermostat set to 70 degrees. And then like when Felix was born, there was like a stretch of like a couple months where it was in the middle of the summer and we barely went out of the house. And I was just like, I'm just cold all the time and I'm always tired. Somehow it's like I've turned into like the TV dad where it's like 74 is good. You don't really need it to be any cooler than that. which I think is like in the pilot for Family Guy. There's a joke about somebody adjusts the thermostat and all the dads in the neighborhood like stick their heads in. That's what it was, like a very much more reality based show than it went to. In any case, so Will, when you're back in New England, you could go to Quahog and hang out with Peter and the whole Griffin clan.
Yeah, I totally could. Couldn't I do that, Christian?
But so you guys had fun and you'll get together again. And I think you guys need to record a podcast without me, or you did that once, but I can also zoom in. Jeff, you were showing me before the show, you got some cool new tech there, right? That microphone that you were showing me before.
I got another microphone.
Yeah, look at this thing. But you said you can put a couple of can plug in, or
it's a USB mic, right?
Yeah.
But it's got 4 capsules, so there's 2 on the front and 2 on the back, so you can do stereo setup where it's set for people talking from either side of it.
Oh, nice.
Because Will's come over and we've recorded at my house. We've done a couple. We did one where we talked to Jeff, and then we did one where we talked about the Kiss documentary on A&E, which, man, you want to talk about an experience watching commercials.
Oh, man.
There were so many commercials because we watched it on the free A&E app.
Yeah.
Therein lies the mistake. You get what you pay for, I suppose. So we haven't done a show, all together. And we also haven't done one, Will and I did the last show because we talked about our adventures with Bujensky, and I'm not going to lie, I'm very disappointed that episode is has as little interaction as possible. I know Farad Muhammad saw it. Sorry, I think Dominica Saxon saw it. I don't know if Farad saw it, but because Dominica Saxon was the only one to make fun of what I looked like in the reveal.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Episode.
That was such a big deal.
I thought
right now. Don't sleep on this. Come on.
Yeah, don't sleep on that episode. I'll tell everybody what episode that was. It was like 484 or something.
And it's on the YouTube, right?
The YouTube version is what I really wanted people to see. So like I didn't post pictures from the YouTube version.
Okay.
Because I really wanted people to see it. And Jeff, the short of it is that believe it or not, we had a day with Bujensky, and it didn't end where I was fall down drunk. But I did fall down hard. And Bladtcast 485, Truck Yeah, a story in 3 parts, which is Will and my
enough recently.
So everybody needs to go find Bladtcast 485. But that was the last time we did, one of these classic styled episodes of the Bladtcast where we're, just a bunch of dudes just talking, and it's fun to go through, on the Bladtcast Instagram. We're doing what I call hashtag Bladtcast a day, and I post like all these old episodes, and a lot of it I just pick it because I'm like, I like the picture that goes with it, because it's like all of us, like we went to a movie, and like we saw Jurassic World without Jeff, but Bujensky went with us. And just to remember how Will began feeling so strongly about Jurassic World, and
still hate it.
That's such like a running bit through like 6 years on the show.
Yeah,
and
everyone is still wrong about that movie. If anyone thinks it's good,
about how good it is,
incorrect.
We're wrong that it's even better than The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2 combined.
Yeah, but not Godfather 3, because that's some of the finest cinema that is ever been made. Yeah. Dominica Saxon being a little bit of a douche. The guy who talks the least has the most expensive mic. I wish I love when Jeff talks. Jeff's my favorite secretly, more so than me.
Wow.
It's honestly there was a point, I remember saying this to Will, where it was like I was watching some of them and I felt like I was talking too much. I was like, I gotta shut the fuck up.
I mean, that's the whole point, is that we're here to talk.
Meanwhile, I only fast forward to the parts where I talk.
Yeah, well, I think you should.
I do this just so I can look at myself in the future. Hey. Good to see you again.
In the future, yeah, exactly. But I don't know. So you guys had your get together, but
Yeah.
we haven't. So Will,
I
you're
got-
going to be gone for
wait.
2 months.
I have to
Yeah.
point out one thing that happened that I thought was just like ridiculous. We were talking to Ken, and the name Irie came up, right? The whole
Yeah.
story around Irie,
Which, for people who don't know, that is his name.
and it was like I thought I knew a different story. Apparently, I had just was bad information, whatever. But the part to me that stuck out was like he said that I told him I was like, oh, it's a Jamaican name. He's like, no, it's a Jamaican word. I'm like, it's a Jamaican name. It's a Jamaican girl's name. 100%. Like it really is. I didn't make that up. And he got like so mad and defensive towards me when it was like, I'm not insulting you. I'm just stating a fact about that name being a Jamaican name. Like,
wow.
It was.
He's gonna listen to this and he's gonna fight you.
I just didn't understand. I'd love to talk to him about it. Like why he seemed to get so mad and defensive when I pointed that out. I was like, it's just a name. Why? I'm not arguing with you. I'm not telling you you're named. I don't know.
I didn't know the full story either, so I felt like I learned.
I never really knew the
something too.
story, and I didn't really know that because that name showed up in like Dennis signed a new contract and the employees were listed in there, and I was like, wait, I'm so confused. Who is this? And so I called Bart Tussler. He's like, yeah, you know him. You work with him every day. It's Ken. What's your next question? It was just like I'm like, oh, I didn't know. That's how I found out. That was his name.
Still a man of mystery.
Yeah,
international man.
International man of mystery.
National. I mean,
maybe because I'm driving across the country, I'll have my car. I can finally give his DVDs back to him because they're in the car.
I saw them that day. That day that we
in
hung
the car.
out. Yeah, I held those DVDs that you still have.
Also, I went to the gym and I needed to get something out of and I opened the passenger side door and I found a bloody napkin on the ground.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, that's.
And I was like, oh, Christian's blood. I put it in a little bag.
And you're gonna make a clone of me. Yeah,
I'm gonna make a clone. Yeah.
Just this is bad resolution, but just a little quick share for our audience.
Facial expression is also helpful.
Yeah, well, I paused it. So you have to really dive into Bladtcast 485. I'm gonna have to make that this will be the first time that I do a Bladtcast a day where it's a repeat. I'm gonna need people to. I mean, look at the struggle that I had for this show.
Yeah,
and the pain that I went through.
How long would you say the healing? Because you look, at least from this screen, you look normal now.
Yeah, but I will tell you that in all honesty, if I zoom, hi Jeff, you're very handsome. It's actually I still have a little bit of a bump here. I'm probably going to get a scar. I'm probably going to have a scar from it.
This is
so
over.
I'll always remember the day that we hung out at a country music.
You should get tattooed on the bump.
That's not a bad idea.
Okay. Face
but yeah, no, it's a lot better. But it took 2 full weeks for that bump to go away.
Wow.
And Lucy thought my eye being purple was hysterical. But I was just like, yeah, just don't poke it, because she's like, ha ha, and I'm like, no, stop. It actually hurts. Yeah, yeah.
One day she'll understand.
Yeah. Dominica Saxon says he'll watch that episode again. He doesn't remember what he said about it. It was the quote from. It was a quote from Deadpool, basically TJ Miller saying what he looked like with his mask off. It was I think a run of those is because I remember, because you know what, words hurt. So Will, that means if you're leaving like next week, that means that we are not going to hang out until well into the summer. So
probably not.
So that means I'm going to have to go to Rock and Brews with Bujenski just one-on-one. And I
mean, you can wait.
When I
fall, Bujenski will reschedule on you. Probably
when I fall in the parking lot, you won't be there to help me.
Listen, you got to fly now, baby bird. You got to fall on your own and pick yourself up. Take yourself to the ER.
I don't want to take myself to the ER. I want you to sit there and go get air in your tires, and then go get
air and snacks, gas. I made 2 trips to that AMP.
I let you go. I didn't keep you there too long.
No, we hung out for a little while, and then you texted me from inside, and you're like, "Yeah, there's no way this is going to take less."
No. Once, yeah. I was just like, it's definitely going to be a while for sure.
And it did. It was 3 hours. You said.
Yeah, the whole from the time I went in, it was definitely 3 hours. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, we definitely I mean, the way I remember it, we had fun throughout
great
most
time.
of the day, and even that part, that's what we call an experience. I mean, again, a spoiler from episode 485, but look how much fun we're having there in the waiting room. You know, I mean,
the hat.
what could be better than that? By the way, I never got any stitches. All they did
That's
was
good.
they just cleaned it out, and they said they didn't want to bandage it because they said that it'll heal faster. So I just had that. But so you know what? Well, maybe we shouldn't hang up for a little while. Our recent history is a bad track record, but yeah, well, I don't know, but I want to talk. I want you guys to get together in Massachusetts, and then we can somehow record. And Jeff's got the tech, so I feel like we can make that happen.
You got the
and-
tech.
Yeah.
Um,
You
You
know,
got the
but one of the things
power.
that we didn't get to talk about, and I like to let you guys weigh in on things, and I did a Bladtcast the day after the Academy Awards, and I know people aren't really talking about it as much anymore, but I feel like it's an interesting moment in time. Obviously talking about Coda winning Best Picture. No, which, you know, congratulations to everybody associated with that. That's great. But what I'm talking about is there was this moment that week where you had a lot of people deciding to censor themselves and saying, I was about to. I read this tweet and I don't know who it was from, but it's probably better because I shouldn't say their name. I read a tweet that was, I was about to comment on the Chris Rock Will Smith incident, and then I looked at my hands and remembered I'm a white woman, so I'm not allowed to have an opinion. And I'm
Oh,
like,
God.
okay, that's her choice. But I feel like we should be allowed to have opinions on
Is
anything.
that Tommy
It's-
Loren? That sounds like something she'd say.
It actually might have been. No, I don't
Fucking dumb lady.
I don't know. I don't actually know. It was just,
I think that the saddest thing was that when she was looking at her hands and realizing she was white, she didn't realize that deleting that tweet and just saying nothing was what you should then do.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's still a weird race. It's sort of still a
Like,
race.
It's basically being like, I'm white, so I can't really say how I feel.
there are
Right.
so many.
Just so you know, I feel
there
something.
are so many bad tweets, moments that people are like commenting on things that you're just like, you should not have posted that. And I
Ted
was just
Cruz
like,
do you believe babies can be racist?
I mean, first of all,
Do-
yes.
Look at this. Look at this slide my assistant has brought out here of a children's book called Anti-Racist. Do you think babies can be racist?
Excuse me, ma'am. Can you explain to me why Chewbacca lives on Endor?
I forgot about
What's the is it a Family Guy or Simpsons or whatever? The Johnny Cochran defense about
That
like
was South
that.
Park.
That was
South Park. South Park.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, the Johnny Cochran. Yeah.
That's
And by the way, Wookiees don't live on Endor. That's why that was infuriating to me. They live on Kashyyyk. So I was just like, you know, like he visited. All right. It's fine.
Why
But-
does this Wookiee live on Endor if they're really from Kashyyyk?
the idea that like, and I don't know. I mean, I think that there are times where I have opinions that I'm like, no one wants to hear my opinion on an issue. But at the same time, I'm like, I have it. And if your idea of social media, social networking is that sharing your thoughts with like-minded, different-minded people, but whatever, you've built a community, you can feel free. If you have a thought on two rich people slapping each other, or, you know, a rich person slapping another one, you certainly say something about it. And I found it odd that people felt like that, well, only some people get to have opinions on this. And I was just like, I don't know. I mean, it was a pretty fucking messed up thing, the whole situation, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, when I was speaking to our friend Christian Toto about it the next day, my thought in the moment and it was that, well, what if Jada had gotten up and slapped Chris Rock? I think he would have been like, oh yeah, I deserve that, you know, and then that would have been like, oh, it would have been fine. But then it just turns into this thing that like Will Smith does it. And then it's like, wait, why is he still there? And then like after the fact, he's banned for like 10 years. You know, your movies can still be nominated. So,
Right.
you know, if he comes back for Independence Day 3, it can get nominated.
But
But
he wins right
Yeah.
after.
Best
Yeah.
picture guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
You guys want to
but-
hear a cool remix of that moment? My buddy shared it with me, and I still think
Yeah.
it's pretty. I still think it's pretty solid.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's,
Solid.
dubstep.
Solid.
Death metal.
it's almost as good as DJ Tanner.
Oh, yeah. DJ Tanner.
No. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it's a weird moment to have to watch something like that in an award show where anybody just, whatever the award show is, I was just like, and people gave Amy Schumer shit for saying that it was like traumatizing for people to see that.
Yeah,
I'm like, I can see it's not traumatizing, like, being a child hiding out in the subway station for weeks in Ukraine, but I can, there are different levels of trauma.
Sure.
And I'm like, sure, I could see somebody feeling that way, especially it's like if you're friends with both of those guys. I don't know what Denzel said to him, but Denzel went over to Will, and
He said, when
Bradley
you eat your
Cooper went
highest,
over
that's
to
when
him.
the devil comes for you.
Yeah,
that's what Will said. Denzel said.
That's what Will said. He said, but I'm like,
Yeah.
he said more than that. And
said,
like
I
Bradley Cooper was there
too.
well, maybe. And
he said, King Kong ain't got shit on you. That's what he told him.
That is also true.
Yeah.
So it's not even so much about opinions on the incident, but it's like, aren't we allowed? I don't know. I think we should still be allowed to have opinions on things. But I was referred to as a straw man earlier today. So what do I know?
Was it for this opinion?
No, it was not for this one. But Farad says, I remember thinking the worst thing about the Oscars was that DJ Khaled announcing the host of the ceremony. That changed before the show ended. Yeah, I didn't. They each hour had a different musical presentation, which I don't know. It's just it's a tough show to watch. The key to the yearly Bladtcast after show that we do, which we now do the day after, is usually like, ooh, that is a tough watch. And then this just turned it into a weird watch. I thought that the show had been going like better than usual until that point. And then I was like, well, that's tough. So, well, I don't even care so much. I mean, feel free to talk about the incident itself, but it's like, I think we should still be allowed to have opinions on anything we have opinions on, right? I mean, that doesn't seem like such a crazy idea.
No, I think so. It's funny. I wasn't actually watching. I was visiting some friends in Salt Lake City. We were watching Buckaroo Banzai. Had taken some edibles, and I kind of forgot that the Oscars were happening that night because I only saw like half the movies, and I was just like, for whatever reason this year, I was like, I'm not with my friends doing the big party and doing the, you know what I mean? Like COVID's kind of fucked with. So I just like didn't really think about it. And then I'm like opening my Twitter, my phone, and it's like all these stories about Will Smith. And I was like, what? And I guess it had like been edited or whatever in the American broadcast, but in Australia, somebody posted the clip of like, uncensored or whatever. And I was like, wow, that's objectively horrible. That's a bad thing to do. I think in general, during an awards ceremony, to be of a star that's that caliber and another comedian that's that caliber, to get up on stage, walk across the whole stage, like this didn't take a short amount of time. It wasn't like they were already sitting next to each other.
Right. Yeah.
Hit somebody on national live television and then walk back and scream, "Keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth." Yeah, I mean, typically I don't want to take jokes, make shots at people's significant others' expense. Comedy wise, it's just low hanging fruit in general. Unless somebody I think is like a horrible person, then it's like, yeah, like Melania. You know what I mean? Always going to take shots at the Trumps because they're fucking.
Well, she would suggest that you be best.
Question
I know.
on that point, because it's not like he said it and Jada wasn't there. She was there, so he kind of said it to her.
Right. He did, and that's first. Will Smith is laughing, and then he hits him. And so, just I don't know. Anybody could have an opinion. I don't think that there's a version of that story where you're like that was fully justified. Like usually, violence is not the way to figure something out. But
yeah, there were a number of people who felt like, oh, he got what he deserved for making fun of that. But yeah, she was there. She's also insanely famous. They have welcomed the world into their really messed up relationship that they have.
It is a weird relationship.
A lot of people are like, the relationship doesn't have anything to do with it. I'm like, no, that relationship has everything to do with that moment. Yeah. And just that look on her face, the fact that he was laughing at first and then it changed. And it's just like, it all had it's all part of it. It's like super famous people and then another famous person who's less famous than you,
slightly,
but Pootie Tang's great. But just somebody that you're friendly with. That's like, all right, and I was just there was a lot of that narrative the day after, which was like, well, that's what you get. I'm like, all right, settle down, you know.
Yeah.
And Chris Rock still hasn't talked about it. I know that he did a show like the next week, I think in the Boston area, and all he said was when he came out on stage, he was like, "How was your weekend?" And he's like, "I'll talk about it another time," because he's working on a new hour special or something. Jeff, were you watching the Oscars, or were you doing something more useful like digging through old vinyl?
Yeah, I definitely was not watching the Oscars. It's just like, perspective wise, hearing something like Amy Schumer say that watching somebody else like slap somebody on a broadcast was traumatizing just seems silly.
Yeah.
Because again, it's like our TV, the movies that they're nominated for are people doing much worse things than that in those movies. Like our whole media is filled with violence and all sorts of other things, but like seeing somebody slap somebody else is like so appalling and like unnerving. Like, we literally pay people to beat the shit out of each other and then pay to see that, but a guy slapping another guy is like got us all just like shuddering. It just seems like it felt, people's reactions to it felt like the social media age reaction to things, where it's like, oh, this thing that happened between two people that have nothing to do with me is all about me and how I feel about it. Like, let's make this whole thing about how I feel about this other thing that happened between them. It just seems like, because the currency has been outrage for so long, people just saw this as like, oh, no one's going to condone people slapping each other. This is the perfect thing to be upset about. And so everybody had to have their little opinion about how it was so terrible and this, that, and the other. And to me, it just seems like it should have been a non-incident. Like, it's not, I don't condone or think it's okay that Will Smith did that, but I also think if we hadn't blown it up into a media thing, it could have, it's like a little kid falling. You're making this huge deal about it, and then they're going to cry. If we just were like, you all right? And they'd get up, they're like, yeah, I'm good. We could have kept it moving, but it
that's what me and Christian did when he fell. I was just like laughing. You okay? He was like, yeah, totally fine. Let's just go. Let's just get out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, legitimately, I did say that the difference between being in my mid 40s, in my mid 20s, I would have put a beer on it, and
Right.
I would have been like, all right, let's go. Well, let's go to the bar, probably. Let's see. Farad Muhammad. I actually skipped the Oscars because I was going to a party full of comics for our bars last night before it closed down. The slap news spread like wildfire through the group of comics. Yeah, there's some very funny and interesting things that people had to say about all of it, but I don't know. It was just the idea, and that the people had something to say about it. It was just like, and I think that when we were talking about it, Jason Blair was really dug in that it was staged and the whole thing. And I was just like, there's no benefit. Yeah. But as the time has gone on, there's no benefit to Chris Rock, no benefit to Will Smith to go through a bit like that. And I think that this idea that Chris Rock kind of put his face out is, I think he probably thought he was going to get a joke slap, and he's like, oh, Will Smith just slapped the shit out of me. By the way, I saw it was the Japanese telecast, so there's like a Japanese woman like sort of narrating and talking during it, so it's a lot funnier than the Australian.
That would be the
one.
best commentary.
Yeah,
just the like
kind of was actually.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can find it. I mean, I'm sure it's still out there.
Just violently racist, because Japanese are unapologetically racist.
Yeah. Back to something that Will said earlier. Farad points out, comedian Sam Morril, very funny. Sam Morril did a fantastic bit about racist babies. What was his first word? I'd rather not say. Very funny. But yeah, well, you know what? Jeff's 100% right. So if Dominican Saxon's agreeing with Jeff, we should share it. His daughter never cried when she fell around me because I told her she's fine, but she'd cry around her mom because she got the empathy. That's probably true. I know not to cry in front of Will. Will started taking his belt off, and I know it would have gone to the back of my head. Yeah. So I knew better.
You want another fucking bump, Christian?
Give me something to cry about.
Get over here.
Yeah. But that's an interesting point. Yeah. I think neither of my parents were comfortable with me crying around them. So it made it a little tougher. Both my kids cry all the time. So I don't know, but they're 6 and 4. So that might have something to do with it.
Yeah.
But But kudos to my son Felix, by the way. Today was Earth Day,
Welcome to
but
Earth Day. Speaking
all
of Will Smith.
week he rode his scooter to school. We
Whoa.
basically walked to school, and then Lucy wanted to go, and her school is like twice as far as his, and like she was through it. She's like, I'm getting tired. I'm like, well, if you want a scooter again, we gotta finish this out. So, it was exhausting. And then you know what I would do after I walked the kids to school and we carried the scooters home. Well, I would go to the Judgment Free Zone and get a pump.
Oh, I was just at the Judgment Free Zone this morning.
Oh, I didn't know you were back. I know we're not neighbors anymore.
In Long Beach, yeah, I've been going to the Judgment Free Zone for a long time. And today's the first day I realized when I was stretching on one of those purple mats that the Judgment Free Zone is registered saying. There's a little R next to it.
Oh,
Judgment Free Zone.
all right.
Rated R.
So the reason why I was called a straw man earlier today was I commented on my timeline is basically, so I said my timeline is I can't wait for Elon Musk to take over Twitter. So, that'll be great for free speech. But
Right.
then my Twitter is also hooray for DeSantis really sticking it to Disney for having an opinion. So I was like, all right. I mean, I thought it was a mild observation. I'm like, yeah, those things seem inconsistent. It's like people can say whatever they want unless they don't agree with me. And I'm like, well, that's a very American bipartisan feeling. It's like free speech, unless I don't like it. And, I mean, the person who wrote back to me was talking about like, well, this is because of the content that Disney's putting out. It's like, no, it's not. It's because Disney didn't like this guy's law, and you can say what you want about that law. And I've talked to people about the law, and I think it is not understood as, I think that people who support it are not thinking that, well, this is the don't say gay law. And that's just an easy thing to call it. And I mean, I think that that's really what it is. And every time I see Ron DeSantis speak, I'm just painfully reminded of how that guy will never be president. And, he's definitely like middle management. He can be a senator, clearly anybody can be a senator. But there's just guys you see and you go like, yeah. And, you see a name like DeSantis on a ballot. You know what that is? A little too ethnic. I think it's a little too ethnic for people.
Oh.
Honestly, the most presidential name I've ever seen on a ballot is probably like Mitt Romney. That seems like a guy people want to vote for. Barack Hussein Obama. That does not seem like somebody that's the outlier. Totally the outlier. But I don't know. I just feel like it's this isn't a new observation, Jeff. This idea that we're all for free speech. Oh, but except for when we don't like it. And it's not even so much about these two examples, but that really seems to be the not even just the order of the day. That just seems to be the world we've lived in the last few years, right, Jeff?
Oh, it's felt that way to me forever. I remember coming out of college in 2010, and my whole little joke was about freedom. Everybody loves it, except how much they hate it. Like, because it's like everybody
want
loves
other
the
people
idea
to have it.
freedom for their things that they want. But the second it's like, yeah, and you know how if there was total freedom, other people could fuck the things you want up. Like, no, you're not free to do that. That's you're not understanding how freedom works. It's I get what I want and fuck you.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Will, obviously, I mean, there's a reason people do refer to that bill as the "Don't Say Gay" law, because there is a reason that's what it is. And I think that there are people who just feel strongly about wanting to be able to have certain conversations with their kids themselves. And, somebody who wrote to me about that, I was like, yeah, no, I totally understand that. I just think that once it turns into something that you're sort of campaigning on, and God, Disney can't, I mean, this guy, Bob Chapek, who they got over there now, I mean, he can't do anything right. No. He didn't comment on it. And then it was like, you should really say something. And then he said something, and then it's like, great, we're going to change our state constitution after 55 years and, take away your self-governing status, which reading very interesting thread this morning about what that translates into is higher taxes in Orange County and I think Osceola is how you say it. There's two counties in Florida that the Disney not having their own like police force and fire and all that is like, great. So that's going to get passed on to other people. And that's what I read. But what are your thoughts on just in general, sort of, there is this law, the way people are talking about it is there any aspect of it that you feel like, well, somebody in this process must have been well-intentioned, or is that, how do you see it? It's really just more of a wide open question.
I don't see good intention in this because they're not actually considering what it is. So it gets a term, right? Which is like, it's almost like defund the police, which is actually not what that movement is about. It's just a fiery way to say it to make people look like bigger idiots or bigger jerks or whatever it is. I don't think anybody actually really wants to defund the police. It's about reallocating.
I would say there's probably a handful of people that do, but you're right. The majority of people do not.
The truth of it is reallocating money to different programs and having different people, not just cops, show up to things like domestic disputes, like people who are trained to de-escalate and handle things like this, who don't then maybe be like, I guess I should shoot somebody now. And so with this, like, don't say gay, saying that makes it the kind of the brand of like, it makes somebody look like a bigot by saying they support this don't say gay bill. But truthfully, it's like, what does it ban? Any kind of teaching of queer people really in general, or relationships between the ages, or between kindergarten and third grade, which unfortunately, I think it is reflective of modern day conservatism, and people can argue like, well, that's not what I believe. Then great, you should be a louder voice to support good things. But truthfully, media representation and the loudest voices in conservatism now are very problematic to queer people. And there's this inherent relation from people on the religious right to equate any kind of queerness with sexual deviancy. So if you want to talk about having, any kind of queerness in the world, you're grooming children. And they're very good at using both children as both weapons and shields to say it's about the children, it's about saving the children, it's about protecting the children, it's about not corrupting the children, it's about not grooming the children. Really, it's just fear, and it's about them. It's about the adults who don't really want to invest the time to understand that queer people exist in the world and they have rights and freedoms just like everybody else. And when you're governing a system by the people, for the people, those voices are a part of that conversation and need to be heard. And this kind of teaching in schools, if teachers were going to say, okay, we're learning about XYZ today, it's not like, hey, you're in first grade, here's a picture of a man's penis going in another man's butthole. But that's kind of how it's pictured, I think, from the religious right in this sort of deviant grooming situation. It's really just saying like, hey, some people have two dads, some people have two moms, some people are trans women, some people, in a casual, supportive way, to be like, this is just the way that the world is. It's diverse and it's interesting. And if you come from this background, God bless. Good for you. Let's learn a little bit about this. If you come from two straight parents, God bless. We're all coming together in the same place to have the same conversations in an attempt to hopefully educate people so we can create more harmony going forward in the future. And anything like this that seeks to shut down those kinds of conversations, especially for kids at those ages, which are actually very important ages to have conversations like that, between the ages of kindergarten and third grade, like there's a lot of formative brain activity going on about how kids perceive the world and their influences. And if we are forcing them to believe specifically and strictly what we want them to believe, because this is the way that God wanted it, or this is the way that it must be, then you're potentially grooming those kids to be, I guess I could make an extreme argument, like, what are you training them to be? Little mass shooters? Are you training them to be little fucking Aryan white supremacists? What are you grooming them for? You know what I mean? Like this whole grooming, it's for the children and protecting the children. It's about people's fear in accepting that queer people are in the world and have relationships. And it's something like over 75% of kids in the foster system, or kids who are up for adoption who have disabilities, are adopted by queer couples because they just want families and they want kids. And usually most heterosexual couples are like, yeah, but we don't want a fucked up kid. We want to. So
well, yeah, I mean, and especially when it comes to foster and adoption, because you're literally choosing your child. You know, when your kid is born a certain way, you know, there's obviously different ways to react to that. But in general, it's like, okay, we'll figure that out. But yeah, and yeah, I mean, I think it's very difficult to arrive at those things. And, you know, I think that, you know, as I've said, my kids are 6 and 4, and they've grown up where their friends, they have kids that they go to school with, they have, you know, the concept that some kids live in a house where there's two mommies. Sometimes there's just one mommy and then daddy has a separate house.
Sure.
Sometimes there's the two, there's the two daddies, and they understand all those things. And I think it's important to be able to have a kid ask a question about another family like that. And that was what I said, just sort of an offline conversation I had with someone.
Yeah.
Because I a lot of times I'm like, I don't need to talk about all this stuff on Twitter, but my podcast, that's a different conversation, because
Right.
it's it's people who are paying $9 a month for the conversation.
It's
But
just, to me,
yeah,
the
go ahead.
inherent hypocrisy that if you want, as Jeff is saying, if you want certain freedoms, if you want certain things, if you want to be able to legitimately have those conversations, you have to be willing to compromise and allow those freedoms and opportunities for people who are different than you. But when it comes from an upbringing or a foundation of sin or inherent wrongness or evil or wickedness or devil stuff, that's a fake. That's a fucking straw man argument. You know what I mean? Because it's not real. That's smoke and mirrors. And if you believe it, God bless. Like, believe it to your core as much as you want. But we have separation of church and state for a reason. And you should not be allowed to govern or dictate what people should be able to do with their lives or how they raise their kids because of your religion. People would be losing their minds if we woke up tomorrow and it was like most of the people were Muslim making laws. We'd be like, whoa, Sharia law is going to be rampant in the world. Like Ilhan Omar says, like, imagine if Muslims led a prayer session on an airplane. Would everybody have such a great time as this like Easter service on the airplane? And all the, crazy conservative people were like, you have religious freedom. If you want to do it, you should do it. But if you don't like it, you should go back to the country where you came from. Like, she's a fucking American idiot. She's okay. But it's not the same. People like to pretend in an angry way that it's the same, that these freedoms are allowed to everybody just as they're allowed to everybody else. But it's not true. And everyone knows that they're fighting tooth and nail to oppress as many people as they possibly can, to live as comfortably as they want to be, at the expense of children who they use as tools for furthering their own shitty political religious gain. And it's wrong. And it's supreme gaslighting, because they make queer people look like the perpetrators of sexual violence and sexual deviancy against children by trying to groom them, when in actuality, the truth is the exact opposite, because they're using kids for this exact reason, to disenfranchise people, to separate them, to strip them of their freedoms, all in the name of what? Their freedom? Jesus? Yeah. Like, that's just not how this works. And that's, to me, I'm not even trying to say like that's what Joe Biden stands for. I'm just saying rhetorically, for me, as an argument and as an emotional argument, that's what I'm fighting against. Not even as a Democrat or a Republican. I just see that as a social issue where millions of people are being disenfranchised by people in positions of power who have zero desire to empathize or understand. The same way that Ted Cruz can grill a black woman who's on being, interviewed to be a Supreme Court justice, and somehow makes it about racism to her and asks her if she thinks that babies can be racist, quoting a book called Anti-Racist Baby, which is inherently designed to have conversations with children about how not to be racist. No. Never supposes that children are born inherently racist. It's just, how do we talk to children to raise them as more empathetic, kind, loving, caring individuals? And somehow Ted Cruz spins it and addresses another a black woman about this thing that he inherently misunderstands and needs her to explain it back to him to make it make sense to him. Like, fuck that guy. Fuck any of those opinions. You should do the work. It's your responsibility.
We've heard the term mansplaining explained many times. I think that what you're talking about that Ted Cruz did was white splaining. I think it's he's just like,
you make this make sense to me.
Let me tell you about racism.
Right.
I know racism.
Right.
I'm Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
And let me tell you what happened when the heat didn't work in Texas and I took my family to Cancun. Let me tell you the struggles that I have had.
Right.
Yeah. And
have you watched Atlanta at all?
Only the first season.
I saw some of the first season and I thought it was well done. And I feel like people have continued, like, it's like one of those shows that has these high expectations for it, but it's actually like succeeding in at least meeting them. Has it continued to be good, Jeff?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that I think is a show of excellence from that show and a testament to Donald Glover's talent is the people that he brought in for that show initially have blown up since that show started, right?
Wow.
Like his main actors are himself, Zazie Beetz, Brian Tyrese Henry, and Lakeith Stanfield, who are all doing really well for themselves these days.
Yeah.
So it's a phenomenal cast, and it's an interesting show with a lot of social commentary and stuff. The current season that's on, it's been like 4 years between the second and this third season that's airing now, because it had been a couple years and they were supposed to do it, and then the pandemic broke, so it was another couple years from then. And so the current season, basically the idea is Donald Glover's character is the cousin of Brian Tyrese Henry's character, who's a rapper. At this point he's successful, so they're in Europe doing like a European tour kind of thing, and so there's different episodes with different things. But one of the interesting episodes, to relate back to what we were talking about, they're all at this party at this like billionaire's mansion, and Lakeith Stanfield's character is getting some food, and there's an Asian woman, and he goes, excuse me, because he's trying to get something. She's like, oh, I'm sorry, I have a fiance. And then it explains, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, a lot of black guys are into Asian women. And just says it in like a weird way. He's like, oh, okay, thanks. And then there's like a white guy behind him who's just like, did you hear that, bruv? So racist. And then so a bunch of like white people end up gathering around and be like, I'm just sick to my stomach, I can't. He's like, it really wasn't that big a deal.
Amy
like,
Schumer traumatized. Yeah, exactly. I'm out for listen, I for one as a white woman am outraged by what is happening in the black community, which is like fair. You're allowed to have that opinion, but
of course.
There is a threshold in which it becomes this like this appropriation of grief that has nothing to do with you.
No, I mean, we're talking about it's fine to have an opinion, but you cross a line when you try to tell people that your opinion is actually the right one, and let me tell you how you need to be handling this.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I think that look, the state of Florida can do whatever it wants to Disney, but I think it's very short-sighted in terms of the amount of revenue generated there and the amount of people that are employed by that. Look, I don't care. It doesn't affect me. When I go to Disney, I go down the 5 freeway and I go in California. I don't go to Florida Disney. I've got Disney here. I don't care what they do in Florida Disney. That's fine.
But I think that's the thing, and like I'll get off my soapbox a little bit, but like think inherently what that means when Disney says actually we stand with queer people, for an entire governing body to be like, well then fuck you, we're gonna fucking come after you. So what does that mean? Does that sound anti-queer, anti-LGBTQ plus? What does that sound like? They would say no. But what the fuck else would you call it? It's like Blue Lives Matter. Listen, I got friends who are cops, family who's cops. I'm not anti-cop, but I am definitely like, we got to fix something because there's systemic racism going on and there's a lot of problems in law enforcement. But it doesn't mean they're all bad. However, for an organization or a statement, All Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter, to exist only because there was created a group called Black Lives Matter, which is really just saying like all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter. By the way, we're suffering right now. We're struggling. We just need you to come over, help us, like go to bat for us so we can even the playing field. And then we have equity and we can go up. Everybody can be in the world, but we have to invest in this for the time being. So that there are then other groups that are created in opposition to Black Lives Matter inherently is part of a systemic racist problem where you're saying we disacknowledge this notion and sentiment that Black Lives Matter because we believe that all lives matter. And that's inherently missing what that organization and that movement is about, the same way that this is missing the whole argument about freedom and letting people live their lives and do their things. Like, if you want that for yourself, you must be willing to give it to other people. It cannot be this hypocritical thing that it is. And if it is, then you just need to accept and admit that you don't believe in freedom. You believe in conditional rights for people, and just own your fucking bigotry. At least just do that. And then we're like, cool, we know what you're about. But don't pretend that it's about peace and good love and will and Jesus and all that other bullshit, because it's not. It never has been and it never will be.
No, I don't disagree with any of that. I do think that one thing we can all agree with is this woman's a douche. As we were talking about Twitter before, and this is a 2-year-old tweet, but I've never talked about it on this show before, but it's my favorite bad tweet that shouldn't have been sent. This woman said, "Just told my 10-year-old daughter about RBG. She
Yeah.
had tears in her eyes. Then she did the Wakanda pose and said, Ruth Conda forever,' which is a sort of pop culture crossover that I can celebrate." And
don't even know what
the
this
way I
is.
first saw that tweet was it was a quote tweet, and it was like, "Karen, that never happened," and her name's not Karen. And yeah, and it's just like, you want to talk about people who's like, yes, things shouldn't be tweeted or like that. Don't
Yeah.
pretend some precious moment happened
Right.
that clearly
And even
did
if it
not.
did, it's like I don't know. There's a virtue signaling element of that like
Yeah.
it's inherently like a white person thing.
Yeah.
Fine. We got to just figure it out.
But the in terms of things that everybody else can agree on, it's of course that we
That's
need
right.
to have Bladtcast Plus.
Absolutely.
As we begin to wind down here, the thing that inspired Bladtcast Plus, of course, was the fact that CNN Plus is something that launched at the beginning of the month, and after 3 weeks, they decided that they're going to close the door on CNN Plus. And I could not think of a less well thought out streaming service than
Yeah.
CNN, who gives you already pay for CNN if you have cable or any kind of service.
Right.
You're paying for news. If you, like, I have YouTube TV, I don't have cable, but part of that subscription includes CNN. You don't even have to watch CNN. So the idea that a news service was like, how the news is free? What if you pay for the news?
Yeah.
Don't you want to watch the 80s narrated by Tom Hanks at any given moment that you want to?
And I was talking to my wife about this because it's like, okay, if they like open up the archives and you're like, oh, okay, well, I can see, like
news
old
broadcasts.
presidential debates or, an inauguration, or, okay, if you're somebody that wants to watch the coverage of 9/11 to try, if you're younger and you want to try to understand it. Okay. But you can find all of that on YouTube. You don't need CNN Plus to find any
Sure.
of those things.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they thought it would agree. Now, Jeff, I'm sure you were a big CNN Plus guy, and you're probably upset that you bought the annual subscription, so you're really screwed.
I bought the Sirius XM
Yeah,
lifetime subscription.
$5,000 for life.
down the drain.
$500 of CNN Plus, and you only got 3 weeks of content.
Worth every penny.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't even think we need Paramount Plus, but I can at least understand it.
Shitty. It's such a shitty, like, my thing, to me, the metric for whether these companies should have their pluses is whether the fucking service works. Because Paramount Plus across most of my devices constantly fucks up and constantly has issues above all other streaming services that I use. So I'm just like, they really need to get their shit together, get some tech teams in there. HBO Max had some problems early on. They've gotten it figured out. Paramount seems to just like, they've been around for a year now and they still haven't figured shit out.
And they were CBS All Access before that. So
Exactly.
like they just rebranded it. And I think Paramount Plus shouldn't be around because Star Trek Picard is one of the worst experiences of my life.
Oof.
And I recently spent 3 hours in an emergency room after falling in a parking lot, as I detailed. It is unbelievable how bad that show is.
Really?
It makes me
I thought people
long.
liked the first season a little bit. No,
a little bit, but it was also not good. And the
Yeah.
thinking heading into season 2 of Picard is that it couldn't possibly be worse than season 1. Surprise! Oh, it's bad. And they also cut corners because they time travel back to 2024, and it looks really cheap. So that's why I've tried to trademark my Ruth Conda forever is the fact that I refer to Star Trek Picard as the Galactica 1980 of Star Trek series, because Galactica 1980 was Battlestar Galactica. The original version was too expensive, so they're like, "That's all right. We'll have him go to Earth, and it'll be super cheap and really bad." And it was. And this is just such a bad show. And I love Sir Patrick Stewart. I love the character of Jean-Luc Picard. It is a terrible show. And there are people who try to say like, "I'm really enjoying it." I'm like, I don't understand how.
Yeah.
I told someone that you must be a different species than I am because I'm happy that you can enjoy it. But it makes me long for the great storytelling of Book of Boba Fett. That's really what...
It sounds like my opinion on Jurassic World. Just word for word. We're just changing the variables.
What's wrong?
No, except I'm right about Star Trek Picard, and you can catch our Star Trek Picard after show here on the Bladtcast YouTube network. Will, I know you've got an audition that you have to run off for because I believe
Will you
you're doing an audition for CNN Plus, right? You're going to
That's
host a
right.
show for them.
Yeah, as the guy. Remember how CNN had the end of the world broadcast prep just in case the end of the world actually happened? Was that CNN? Yeah. I'm doing that for prepping for the end of CNN Plus. It's like I stand with a band and they play a somber song, and we sort of like we have a gray like a bit like a coffin, and we put like I don't know old newsreels and stuff in it. And we bury it. It's like a big thing.
Taps.
What?
You scat taps.
Yeah, well, it's like the oh my god, the humanity.
Yeah, we have a big wailing thing. It's like when Kim Jong-il died and people were forced to cry. Like we're gonna just a lot of that in honor, in memoriam of CNN Plus.
Well, Will, if people want to find you, where do they do that? And tell them where they can find History Rated R.
At Will Sterling _ on Twitter and Instagram. History Rated R, wherever you find your podcast, Spotify, Apple. Shout out to Dominicus Saxon for saying something very positive and nice during my tirade. Thank you for saying that, Mr. Saxon, about same-sex couples adopting children.
Yeah, he said, from what I've heard, a kid has a much less chance of a bad childhood with a same-sex couple than a straight couple. Let those couples have first choice. I mean, in all honesty, I mean, to Will's point, it's like there are so many kids that, especially older kids, you're talking about kids with various I know we shouldn't call them disabilities anymore, but I'm not sure what I should
I'm
call
also
them.
unsure of the wording, so
but whatever it is, kids that just need a little bit more love. There are plenty of parents that are happy to do it, and standing in the way of that never makes sense.
Worried then we won't have any good music or movies? Like if everybody has good childhoods, then like
well, that's true.
We'll just go back to having Baroque music again and that weird dance where they clap and they
well, you know what I always say, if it ain't Baroque, don't fix it. And that is why Uva Scrimshaw said B+. I will take a B+. That's a great idea to the Bladtcast. And Jeff, people don't want to find you, but Will's going to find you. You guys are going to hang out. Maybe go to Fenway, go to the Cask and Flagon.
As long as I don't get murdered by Ken for revealing his secret identity.
I don't think you would get murdered. I mean,
we don't know.
If there was someone he could have murdered, it was someone that we knew who once drank his water that had been in the freezer. And when he didn't murder her, I think that we know of. That's a good point. Although
I'm gonna die like the guy who made the car that ran on water. I'm just I've been poisoned. Go outside.
And Farad Muhammad is probably right. I think developmental disabilities is a correct term. So thank you. I appreciate that. And I wasn't trying to be insensitive. It's just I didn't know what to call.
I didn't either. So yes, I appreciate the wisdom.
Yeah. And of course, you can subscribe to the Bladtcast on your favorite podcast app, but subscribe to the Bladtcast YouTube channel and especially go back and watch Bladtcast 485. And we had a 484 and 485. We had a lot to talk about, a lot of just life talk and fun and pictures of Liev. So that's worth it for 485 alone. And there are more pictures of my bruising. So if you really want to see it, you go find it there.
We should make a slideshow of it backed by like Green Day's Time of Your Life, like an end of year kind of summer thing. But it's just pictures of all your fucked up. Another turning point.
It's actually a great idea. Oh my god, that was right before St. Patrick's Day. So I always take some of the same pictures with my kids with like a shamrock shake, and I make green pancakes, and I had to like put things in front of my face.
I love St. Patrick's Day, don't you?
Look at these pancakes. Kind of what it was. Yeah, it was like the Lucky Charms leprechaun had given me a black eye. Is really what it would look like. It's like, no, I'm
Lucky
fine.
Charms. That's what happened.
I fell down. I really did. What happened when you were with Will? I fell.
All these pirate eye coverings remind me to tell people to watch Our Flag Means Death.
Oh yeah,
especially because it relates back to the whole queer conversation.
Okay.
What is that?
You were telling me about it when I was out there. You said it was good.
Our Flag Means Death. It's a show on HBO Max with Taika Waititi and Rhys Darby about Stede Bonnet, the gentleman pirate, and Blackbeard.
Excellent. All right, yeah, I'll definitely check that out. All right. Well, Will, I said I would have you done by 11:30. It's 11:29. So clearly I delivered. Thank you. Thanks to everybody. We will see you next time on the Bladtcast.